At 3:30 a.m. on July 27, the silence of the night was shattered. A Tiffany blue custom Rolls-Royce, reportedly worth about 1.4 million Australian dollars, was traveling the wrong way when it smashed head-on into a Mercedes. The crash left the Mercedes severely damaged. The victim was George Placeras, 52, the driver for Australia's well-known radio host Kyle Sandilands. He was seriously injured. He told reporters, "I've got no right hip. It's totally gone." The driver of the Rolls was a 23-year-old Chinese woman named Yang Lanlan. She walked away physically unscathed. At the crash scene, she tested positive for alcohol, but when taken to the police station, she refused a second test. So, on August 15th, Yang pops up in court, but only through a video link and just for a couple of minutes. And get this, according to posts flying around online, she didn't say a single word the whole time. Then the internet went nuts. A wild rumor started making the rounds that the judge had slapped her with bail set at 70 million Australian dollars. That's about 323 million in Chinese yuan. Supposedly the highest ever. And the story goes, the money was wired within minutes. But here's the part that really blew people's minds. Another online claim said a court inquiry revealed Yang sitting on a bank balance of 270 billion Australian dollars. We're talking about 1.25 trillion yuan, trillion with a T. Now none of this is confirmed. It's all online chatter, but you can see why it sent shockwaves through Chinese social media. Someone even asked ChatGPT to do the math. Even if you won 1 million RMB every single day, it would take about 3,425 years to reach 1.25 trillion RMB. I'd have to save since the dawn of humanity, one commenter joked. But here's the official twist. According to BBC Chinese, the local court denied the rumors about the eye-popping bail. In fact, the bail was reportedly zero. A court spokesperson told the Daily Mail that there was no monetary condition stipulated by police as part of her bail agreement. Coincidence or not, around the same time, a Shanghai resident won a lottery prize of 328 million renminbi, which lines up suspiciously with the Australian dollar 70 million bail rumor. Naturally, people started asking, coincidence or some clever way to move money? Multiple media investigations dug in and came up with more oddities. They couldn't find any social media accounts for Yang Lanlan, no company registrations, no property titles tied to her name. The Rolls-Royce itself wasn't registered to her. It was listed under a Panama shell company called Ventura Global. Reporters and netizens couldn't find a single everyday photo of Yang. Australian outlets were calling it a person who can't be found. The few images floating around online are just the few shots taken at the crash scene. People online describe this kind of digital disappearance as something only seen with intelligence operatives or the offspring of top political families. Think of how fiercely protected Xi Jinping's daughter, Xi Mingze, is in the public eye. The ability to create such a personal info black hole, netizens say, signals enormous power. And yet, despite supposedly having no assets, this young woman allegedly lives in a top-tier ocean view penthouse in Vaucluse, right across from the Sydney Opera House. Neighbors say she's polite but rarely seen, decorating her ultra-exclusive cars with Labubu toys. They also claim she owns a second, unregistered white Rolls-Royce Ghost convertible, as well as a Rolls-Royce Cullinan SUV. Online photos and clips show her dressed in Chanel and Hermes, luxury everything. When she showed up at the police station, she was reportedly wearing a Chanel knit sweater estimated at about 150,000 RMB. Right by her side at all times, netizens say, is a bodyguard whose looks are strikingly similar to a certain colonel who was named among the top 10 loyal guards of the People's Armed Police in its 22nd class. Online gossip gives the bodyguard a name, Xu Zhengyang, said to be from Shangrao, Jiangxi. Multiple-time national Sanda champion, world kickboxing champion, head instructor of a special police unit in Beijing. The rumor mill says he once served in the Beijing People's Armed Police Special Duty Unit, is a martial arts expert, and holds at least the rank of colonel. More strange timing. Just days after the crash, on August 5th, China reportedly allowed the import of fresh Australian apples for the first time in 15 years, lifting a long ban. A few days later, on August 8th, Sina Finance reported that Australian mining giant Fortescue Ltd had secured a loan of 14.2 billion renminbi, about $2 billion billion, meant in part to work with Chinese suppliers and help the miner advance its decarbonization plans. Netizens couldn't resist. Thanks to Ms. Yang, China-Australia relations are back on track. What conditions does Australia want now? On a mainland social platform, a user named Jonathan posted an explosive claim that Yang's English name is Wendy Yang, that she lives in a seaside house in Double Bay, that she's in the ore business, and that she's close with people at China Sino Steel Group, handles resource supply, trade, and technical services for China's steel industry. Jonathan alleged that the ore business he meant wasn't actual iron ore trade, but quota trading, and that landing quotas is effectively your passport into China's massive iron ore market. Sino Steel grabs 80% of quotas. The rest are parceled out to the Red Third Generation, and princelings, the latter being the sons and daughters of top Chinese officials, who then resell to real operators. Every layer marks the price up, and the cost gets passed on to the construction industry and ordinary consumers. Soon after Jonathan posted, he deleted the message, and later replied that police had contacted him. Because so many elements exceed ordinary explanation, versions of Yang's background exploded online. Some people claimed she's the granddaughter of Xi Jinping's father and his second wife, Qi Xin, in other words, a niece of Xi, pointing to alleged facial similarities as proof. Others claim she's Xi's secret child with Zhejiang Yue opera actress Zhang Yao. These are extreme rumors, but they spread anyway. Netizens have a shorthand for how red elite families handle descendants who aren't going into politics. They say such children are often given duplicated character names, the implication being the kids don't get involved in politics or power fights, so everyone else stays away from them. They point to examples like the founding father of the CCP, Mao Zedong, has a great-grandson named Mao Dongdong. Deng Xiaoping, the key decision-maker behind the 1989 Tiananmen crackdown, has a daughter named Deng Rongrong. Bo Xilai, one of the main figures responsible for the persecution of Falun Gong, has a son named Bo Guagua. Particularly among those whose ancestors joined the CCP in its early days and served as high-ranking officers in the Chinese military, their children's names are mostly doubled characters. For instance, Chinese Lieutenant General Wang Jinshan has 9 children, 6 of whom have doubled character names, and Major General Pan Zhenwu has 9 children, 4 with doubled character names. These red bigwigs commit terrible acts, wreck other people's lives, but they always make sure to save a path out for themselves. As the chatter intensified, another version popped up. Some said Yang is the daughter of a wealthy Taiwanese businessman, yet many netizens preferred the red elite theory. Whoever can move policy and tap state coffers must possess top-tier power. When mainland outlets posted denial articles, commenters simply replied, "Stop covering it up." One user even asked a Chinese AI about Yang's background. The AI reportedly answered that her father was a sanitation worker and her mother worked at a supermarket, that she came from an ordinary family. Netizens speculated that the media storm around Yang Lanlan, a mix of real and fake information, was released all at once for 2 reasons. First, to expose insider stories in the CCP's power struggle, with some targeting Xi Jinping. And second, as a counterattack by Xi's side, deliberately sprinkling false reports to make it hard for the public to tell what's true. China's red families control all the state enterprises and natural resources. The national treasury is basically their ATM. Even billion-dollar private tycoons are, in this worldview, just high-level employees for the party's elite, while ordinary people are mere ants. The contrast online has been savage. While red descendants allegedly live it up overseas in Rolls-Royces and penthouses, a generation of young Chinese is worrying about the forced RMB 1,000 social security payments. Small business owners complain that mandatory social insurance is pushing them to shut down. Some commenters mockingly chant, "Pay Social Security, save Lanlan." The official People's Daily has in recent days criticized young people for not marrying and waiting to die. And commenters hit back with lines like, "We aren't even human, we're Lanlan's cattle." Others wrote, "You don't deserve it. Only the real tycoons are the elite's cattle. We're just the fodder, feeding them." And people warned, don't let the Yang Lanlan story bury other bad news, like the recent collective lead poisoning incident in Tianshui, the Jiangyu matter, and reports of students slipping into brain death. Those topics, they say, shouldn't be covered by the spectacle. Right now, it's only this one Yang Lanlan that surfaced. She may sink back down into silence as soon as the headlines shift. But what's far scarier to netizens is the thought of all the other Lanlans and their families you'll never see.